So we had a question from a viewer about touch screens. She was finding them making her fingers go numb from the touching, the tapping, the texting, and the swiping. And I know they're a very hard surface, and Dr. Markison has a lot to say about that. Dr. Markison is our chief medical expert, and I think you're going to want to hear what he's saying about these hard touch screens, such as our cell phones. Click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you'll know when new videos are posted.
Be careful about these touch screens because, again, you may have nerve tendon anatomy in the carpal tunnel region or other regions of the hand that are unhappy when you're constantly touching and swiping. In a mechanical sense, the tendons can get a little irritated here, called tenosynovitis. Worst case is snapping or triggering digits where the callus on tendons get hung up on either side of a little pulley. We go fishing with a rod that has rings to hold line against pole. We go texting and typing with tendons that are held by rings against skeleton. This first ring, first annular pulley, can get a little tight and irritated. The tendons under it tight and irritated. And you can have pain radiating that way. But in addition, you can also transfer the load and force from the finger right up to the wrist and irritate the nerve. And the numbness and tingling is generally irritation of the median nerve, tunnel nerve, consequent to too much of this and too much of that. And it really varies person to person what your tolerance will be. The reason I use a stylus pen whenever I'm texting, and I have to be in touch with family members and so on, so I'm moving around this way, that's really a better way to do it. So if you can use a stylus, you're always going to be better with a nice loose grip on it. This is one way to grip, but often people choke up on it. And so you move it over to the next notch this way. Retrain yourself to use thumb and go instead of here to here with your stylus, and you're just as relaxed as can be. And the contact on the screen should be no greater than a leaf falling on a pond in autumn. Very gentle. The world is exaggerated in a cartoonish way in terms of force application, and that always backfires in a cumulative sense. And so a very light touch is the right touch.
Yes, I think the fact that a keyboard, especially if you're lucky enough to have ever used a typewriter, they had beautiful give. So there wasn't that percussiveness against the hands. So there wasn't so much force going back. And I think that part of the problem with these touch screens is that they either require excessive force or people just for whatever reason use excessive force when they're using them.
Given the chance, most humans will use excessive force at any time. And the idea is nuance. And so I'm not a sit on my thumb, stay at home guy, but I'm a guy who really understands touch as I have to, working in the operating room and unforgiving spaces. And so a very light touch is the right touch.
It's kind of like listening to a concert pianist who only knows fortissimo. I mean,
Exactly.
It's jarring. It's jarring. There's another element I'd like to ask you about, which is the ulnar deviation, because I see people ulnar deviating and actually radial deviating as they're swiping. And that can also lead to other problems in the upper extremity.
Right. Well, when you ulnar deviate, you're moving towards the little finger side at risk of causing some irritation or tenosynovitis in the extensor carpi ulnaris or flexor ulnaris, or small muscles called hypothenar muscles. And so that's about perimeter keys, caps, caps lock, shift, tab, option, control, return, escape. And all the while, if you have little foot switches and you get a set of 3 foot switches that are assignable single or multiple keystrokes of the included application, it's worth getting foot switches to reduce both ulnar deviation and unnecessary mouse movement. And so that's helpful, but you don't want to tempt the fates there. And then deeper, when you get to skeletal units, there's a little vulnerable cartilage there called triangular cartilage. You don't want to beat up on that too much, because depending on the length relationship, you have a long ulna, for example, compare with radius, then you're going to beat up on that triangular fiber cartilage, and it's pretty unforgiving.
I usually tell people to dictate instead of texting, or, you know, if they're sending a text or an email or something, it's just much better to use the microphone.
It's always better because verbal fluency matters greatly, and don't substitute the hands for a good voice. And recognition is always a good idea. Anything short of code, obviously, writing computer code hasn't caught up yet with the voice.
Yes, I think that I mean, just the natural human being is just so much more efficient than technology, but that's just me. Thank you, Dr. Markison, for clearing this up. We really appreciate it. And I hope everybody takes heed and uses a stylus as Dr. Markison recommended.
Sure.